It's said that because it's in the same family, the vaccine that people have already had for smallpox, plenty of people still alive that were born before 1972, um, are basically protected. Hello, everyone. Now, this is my third video, that probably won't be posted all on the same day. Probably a shorter one. I was thinking about the new scary thing, apparently. I don't really think it's that scary, but we'll see. The monkeypox. And two things is, one, I don't know if they'll change this. So I didn't Google it today, but the other day I had Googled about it just to see, I think it was like a week or two ago, stuff about it before they start changing things, because I had heard they were already changing things on some of the websites. And I saw one of them, I think it was WHO one, I'm not sure. But when I first looked into it, we'll see if it's, I don't know if it's still like that, but apparently it is in the same, I don't know what the right word is, but like class of a disease as smallpox. And I know a lot in the prepper community were worried about smallpox, and which is, I'd say, more scary. But it's interesting that it's kind of like it's not a variant, but it is in the same family. And I was looking into it, and first of all, because it's in the same family, which is why I was surprised that they're trying to catch this on. It seems like they're starting to change things. They're starting, they just raised us to a level 2 here, and want to do masks again on a plane, which is the dumbest thing ever. Also, it was always dumb. But to do that again, and in general, even again, for something that really originally, if you look it up, I know they've started changing it, but that's not how it was really transmitted. Supposedly it can be. Supposedly it has been tampered with. Unsurprisingly, from the same apparent area that the first sickness came from. So, yeah. But besides all of that, it's interesting because, so here in the US, I don't know about the rest of the world, but in the US, I looked it up to see when they stopped doing the smallpox vaccine. When I was looking into the smallpox stuff, months and months and months, like the end of last year. And because I didn't get it, I was born in the 80s, and but my parents did. And so I looked it up, and they stopped in 1972. And that's when they stopped, because apparently it had been eradicated here. And when I was looking up about the monkey version, it said that because it's in the same family, the vaccine that people have already had for smallpox, plenty of people still alive that were born before 1972, are basically protected. That's what it said. So I thought, well, this probably isn't going to be the thing that they're going to try to push next, because it seems silly. Like, there's a large chunk of the population. The only thing I was thinking, and I still kind of think that now that they are starting to talk about it more and try to make it a thing, they probably are going to make it a thing. The only thing I can think of really is that all of the younger people, so, anyone 50 or younger hasn't had the vaccine. And here, obviously I'm talking US specific, and one of the mistakes, and maybe it was on purpose, maybe it was a mistake, I think that they pulled when they were trying for the power grab for the first sickness, was that the biggest threat was to the elderly population. And one, they're already at threat because they're elderly in general. Two, our culture is obsessed with youth. And the people who were the most scared were, like, youth. Basically 20s and 30s and probably 40s and stuff too. But basically, let's say 65 and under, because that's where they were pushing. The truth was that 65 and older had the higher, had the actual, I don't know how to say it, I guess, the bigger possibility of it being a problem. And not to youth. And they're really trying to push stuff on youth, especially the kids. And like actual kids, not just younger people. But yeah, so something like this that really would actually affect people. I mean, depending on how it goes, if you actually were infected with it, it would be able to infect you, usually 50 or younger. So I think that's interesting. The other thing is that it follows it's an interesting pattern. It's not the exact pattern that I talked about in my first video, but there's patterns. First of all, 1972 is the last year. That was exactly 50 years ago. And that's a Jubilee. And I know that the Jubilee is not about anything like this. But again, there's still the patterns of numbers and specific and certain ones, 7 and, but 50 is one of them. And that's actually Leviticus 25, 8 through 13 is where it talks about the Jubilee and what to do about it. And it's about land and farming and stuff like that, food. But it's just interesting. There's a lot of things that happen on Jubilees. And, it's not like it is specifically about a very specific thing for Jewish people, but it's not just that. Like there's, like I said, everything has layers there and the patterns are always repeating. And 50 repeats a lot for a lot of things. This is just one of them that I noticed. The other thing that it fits as a pattern that I find interesting is that it's a pox, which is, if you've seen any of the pictures, which I don't suggest, if you're really like weirded out by stuff, don't look at any of the really gross ones. There's plenty where it's just like, oh, it looks like they have a bunch of mosquito bites or something on a hand. Not the super bad ones. And it, like, that's one of the things in Revelation. And I don't have the verse off the top of my head, but I forgot to look it up before the video. But basically, one of the things that happens in the end times is after the mark is given, there's like kind of a plague thing. And one of the things that happens is those who took the mark get a sore that doesn't go away. And which makes you think of a pox, right? Because you think of a sore, I mean, not necessarily like a ton of them. I'm pretty sure it's a sore, not sores, though I'd have to read it and probably look into it. But, words kind of change. So, so I'm thinking a sore somewhere. But still, I just find it interesting with all the patterns going on that the next thing is apparently something that gives you sores. I'm curious to see who's most susceptible to this monkey business. And should be interesting. But, clearly 50 and under, at least. But there's also another thing I've heard, and I haven't looked as much into it, but it's a very similar kind of idea. It's like pox. It's like little, like an allergy thing. It's called tomato fever. It's happening in India. So it's like a rash, but it really looks like little bumps and stuff. So, and it's red. Tomato fever. I don't think it comes from tomatoes. It's just called that. But yeah, so there's just so many patterns showing up. It's like, it honestly is like God is saying, wake up. Like it's coming. And I don't think it's here right now. I really don't. I don't know, of course, but I don't. But clearly we're still here. There's still time. But yeah, I do think, through a lot of the Bible and stuff, there's a lot of things where there's a lot of warnings before things happen. And there's a lot of preparing time. There's time given. There's, a lot of concessions when people ask God for more time. And, whenever the time is. But just like, Sodom and Gomorrah, and when, is it Isaac? Abraham. I've only read it once. Is it Abraham? I think Abraham. When he asks God to, if I can find whoever it is talking to God, it says, if I can go and I can find, it starts going down. It's like, can I find, 50 people that are, good, that you won't destroy the place. And then it was like, what if I find just like 10? And then it keeps getting smaller. And eventually it's one person, I think. And, there's just Lot. I don't think, well, no, it doesn't. I think it ends at 10 or something, because obviously it's more than one, because Lot and his family leaves. Some of his family. But yeah, so anyways, clearly should have looked at that too. Looked it up so I could actually read it. But you probably know the story better than me. Anyways, but God keeps saying, okay, this less people, because he's merciful. And so I definitely think we should be asking for mercy. And, I know there's a lot of people that believe something about a kingdom time, and maybe. I don't really think so. That there's about to be this really awesome time here, and I don't know. Maybe, though. But I can't say no. But it seems a little wishful thinking, I think, at the time. Especially with the way of what's happening here in the U.S. It is just not good. And so, anyways, though I don't think that's what's going to happen, they are talking about revival, and I think that's happening. And I think that is talked about a little bit before the falling away. It seems to be happening at the same time. There's like a bringing in of all the people. I guess I would be one of them, that are going to be coming to Jesus that weren't there yet. Well, also there's also mass amounts of people falling away. And that's been going on for a while too. And I think I might talk about that in the next video, maybe, because of what I was in before with New Age stuff with astrology and tarot and magic and everything. There's interesting things going on there too. And I know a lot of Christians don't know much about that, besides a very like simplistic view of pagans and witches and stuff like that, to be honest. Which is fine enough. It's probably completely fine. But it does, I think, leave some vulnerabilities to the church. And I use that just as a whole of Christians, of any Christian. But because there's a lot more to it. There's a lot of factions. There's a lot of things. And it is growing a lot. Like, a whole lot. And it's not what people think. A lot of Christians think how it works. It's not like that. But, and I know I'm being kind of vague, but I don't want to get too much into it. But in this video, it's already long enough. But anyways, but yeah, so that's really what I'm thinking. It's just interesting, the pattern showing up with the monkey stuff and Jubilee. Just so much going on with Jubilee year things. And I would suggest, this is kind of vaguely related, just talking about the kind of cycles and stuff, and the patterns. But if anyone hasn't read or watched any stuff from, but Jonathan Kahn, I think is how you say his name. The Harbinger 2, The Oracle, these are the books. And he just came out with a movie that just came out in May. I haven't watched it yet. I think it was only at the theater for like 2 showings. But anyways, super good. He is repetitive in his writing, I will say. It's a little annoying to me, but other people really love it, so it may not bother you. And he even says he was not a writer. Like, it was all a God thing and he's not a writer. So, you know, that's fine. In general, the information's really good, but you can kind of skip around some because he repeats himself over and over and over. But yeah, so really good books. You should check them out. And it's all specifically America specific. So, I mean, you can check it out if you're interested, and from other countries. But if you're in the US, I'd highly suggest reading or maybe watching the movie if you can. I don't even know if you can watch it online yet, but if you can, probably do it, because I'm sure it will kind of be a little easier than reading everything. But or listen to, he has a YouTube channel. I will say his interviews with people are better, in my opinion, than a lot of his own YouTube videos. I don't know why, but his interviews are really good, and there's quite a few of them. And he really explains things better because he's much more concise in an interview. And yeah, so anyways, I highly suggest it. It's really interesting. You can see what's happening in the US basically since 9/11. And I'm curious to see what he thinks is going to happen next, because this year is a Shemitah year. And the end of it is right when everyone is talking about the shortages really happening, which is the end of the Shemitah this year is like September. It's late September, like 25th or something like that, 27th. So basically October. Everyone's saying it's coming in October. And if you look at all the Shemitah, not all of them, but a lot of the Shemitah years for the US, there's always like crashes and stuff a little after. So I'm kind of expecting, I definitely think stock market's going down way more. Much bigger crash. I think we're going to have, eventually we're going to hit the everything bubble, but that's happening. But at least the houses are probably happening now, kind of, and are going to be soon. And I think the stock market is probably the end of the year to maybe the beginning of next year sometime, somewhere between there. I still lean towards like the October, November time, maybe November, but we'll see. It's, scary to say the least, but I highly suggest those books. Anyways, thanks guys for watching. Bye.